You want us to dress in business attire while other departments wear blue jeans? Okay, fine. I worked for a major U.S. bank where all departments could wear blue jeans on Friday, except ours. Our manager insisted we wear business attire, even though we never saw customers and handled dirty, often wet ATM check deposits. It made no sense, but she refused to budge. Frustrated, we came up with a plan. The next Friday, I wore the most mismatched outfit possible. A pastel floral shirt, bold striped pants, and a clashing tie. My manager was on vacation, so nobody said anything. The following Friday, I did it again, but this time, my entire 15-person team joined in. The office was a chaotic mess of colors and patterns. When our manager returned and saw us, her face was priceless. She immediately called a meeting. "This is completely inappropriate for a business environment," she said. "I'll have to write all of you up." I asked her to read the company dress code. It stated clean and pressed slacks, skirts, dresses, shirts, and blouses. No blue jeans, t-shirts, ripped clothing, sleeveless shirts, or gym shoes. I smiled. "Where does it say our outfits have to match?" She was speechless. She muttered that she'd consult HR, but nothing happened. We had followed the dress code exactly. Word spread, and soon 2 other departments joined in. Their managers pressured ours to stop the madness. The next week, she called another meeting. With a sigh, she announced, "You can all wear blue jeans on Friday."
How to get squatters out quickly without the courts. While on a camping trip, my neighbor's wife alerted me that squatters, a man, woman, and child, had moved into my house. The man claimed he had a rental agreement but refused to provide proof. The police said it was a civil matter, leaving me with limited options. After discussing with friends and consulting my police friend, we devised a plan to handle the situation without escalating. We cut our trip short but didn't rush home, deciding to stay strategic and stick to the plan. Once home, we camped at my neighbor's property, where we could observe the squatters. After 3 days, they left with their car and trailer. A friend discreetly followed them to confirm they were heading to town, and we acted quickly. We moved all their belongings to the roadside, secured my driveway with a heavy chain, and parked a tractor across it for extra security. When the squatters returned, now with more furniture, they found their possessions down the road and were furious. The man confronted us, claiming squatters' rights, but I informed him I was the rightful owner. The police arrived, my sergeant friend, and dismissed their claims, pointing out that it was now my possession, making it their problem to resolve in court. The woman falsely accused me of throwing out their belongings, but our friend's dashcam proved they had been away at the time. Caught in the lie, they had no case. A week later, I learned the police tracked them around town and issued a ticket for an overloaded trailer, ultimately forcing them to leave. Lesson learned. Never leave your house unattended for long without a house sitter. Also, I have the best friends and neighbors.
Guy tried to scam me in Rome, so I threw his scam product in an inconvenient location. When I was in Rome, I knew about scams where people offer you free stuff and then guilt trip you into paying. One day, my group fell for this scam. A man approached, asked where we were from, made a random connection, and claimed we were family. Then, he tied a bracelet onto their wrists and asked for something for his family. My son handed him $20. Later, we found the same bracelets in a shop for about 30 cents. The next day, I was alone near the Colosseum when another scammer approached. He asked where I was from, so I said, "The moon." He was confused, but kept going. I told him I wasn't interested, but he kept following me, nagging. Finally, I stopped, and he said, "I want to give you something from my family to yours." I asked, "For free?" He said yes. Feeling petty, I took the bracelet, thanked him, and walked away. He ran after me and asked, "You got anything for my family?" I said, "No, sorry." Then, he grabbed my shoulder and said, "Give it back." His friendly act was gone. I held up the bracelet and said, "This? You gave it to me." He insisted it wasn't free. I reminded him he had said it was. He tried blocking my way, cursing at me. So I took the bracelet and threw it over a railing, down to the ground level. He could still get it, but he'd have to walk all the way around. Furious, he yelled, "F you!" over and over. Then, he acted like he was going to spit on me. I warned him that was a bad idea. After a moment, he gave up and walked away. Guy tried to scam me in Rome, so I threw his scam product in an inconvenient location. When I was in Rome, I knew about scams where people offer you free stuff and then guilt trip you into paying. One day, my group fell for this scam. A man approached, asked where we were from, made a random connection, and claimed we were family. Then, he tied a bracelet onto their wrists and asked for something for his family. My son handed him $20. Later, we found the same bracelets in a shop for about 30 cents. The next day, I was alone near the Colosseum when another scammer approached. He asked where I was from, so I said, "The moon." He was confused, but kept going. I told him I wasn't interested, but he kept following me, nagging. Finally, I stopped, and he said, "I want to give you something from my family to yours." I asked, "For free?" He said yes. Feeling petty, I took the bracelet, thanked him, and walked away. He ran after me and asked, "You got anything for my family?" I said, "No, sorry." Then, he grabbed my shoulder and said, "Give it back." His friendly act was gone. I held up the bracelet and said, "This? You gave it to me." He insisted it wasn't free. I reminded him he had said it was. He tried blocking my way, cursing at me. So I took the bracelet and threw it over a railing, down to the ground level. He could still get it, but he'd have to walk all the way around. Furious, he yelled, "F you!" over and over. Then, he acted like he was going to spit on me. I warned him that was a bad idea. After a moment, he gave up and walked away.
My mom got angry because of her gender disappointment. My mom never wanted a boy. She wanted girls. Apparently her dream was 4 daughters, but she had me 16M first. I have seen photos and videos of the day I was born. She cried hysterically when they told her I was a boy. Then she refused to hold me. After we were cleaned up, she cried about not using the name she had chosen and said she didn't know how to move on from it. All this was caught on camera. Eventually my paternal grandma took me, and she was the person to hold me in photos and videos taken during the rest of our hospital stay. My paternal grandma was my sole parent figure for the first 8 years of my life. She took care of me, and I spent so much time at her house. Sometimes I was there for weeks. Then she had a brain bleed and died. So I was left with a mom mom who wanted girls and not a boy, and a dad who wanted to be a provider and nothing more. My mom had my sister Lily 2 years after me, so mom got her girl and Lily got all her attention, while I got grandma until I was 8 and then nobody. My mom and Lily are super close and mom adores Lily. Lily got the bigger bedroom, she gets the gifts, she gets all her favorite snacks, she gets to do all the extracurricular activities she could ever want, and her birthdays are huge parties with huge gifts. Christmas she gets at minimum 25 gifts from mom alone. Mom typically gets me one, never anything I'd like or want, but you know, thought that counts, which is 0. My mom's family don't act too interested in making up for my lack of parental love, and in the last couple of years, mom and I have argued more and I give her a hard time. Dad's never around to give him one, but mom, if she wants to ignore me, then she can hear how shitty it is, and if she wants to treat my sister like a perfect angel, then she can hear about it. Mom has mentioned how I ruined her dream of 4 daughters. We were at mom's parents' house Friday, and mom gushed about Lily doing good on a project, and the scooter she got Lily to help her get around easier. She got Lily a custom helmet and a personalized lock for her scooter. She couldn't stop talking about it, and I told her she really does love to shower her favorite in gifts and praise. My mom's family told me I should take it easier on her and said I should understand we had some little troubles because of mom's gender disappointment. I told them I don't owe her shit because she had gender disappointment, and that I didn't ask to be born to a mom who only wanted daughters. They told me I lacked adult understanding and compassion.
Guy tried to scam me in Rome, so I threw his scam product in an inconvenient location. When I was in Rome, I knew about scams where people offer you free stuff and then guilt trip you into paying. One day, my group fell for this scam. A man approached, asked where we were from, made a random connection, and claimed we were family. Then, he tied a bracelet onto their wrists and asked for something for his family. My son handed him $20. Later, we found the same bracelets in a shop for about 30 cents. The next day, I was alone near the Colosseum when another scammer approached. He asked where I was from, so I said, the moon. He was confused but kept going. I told him I wasn't interested, but he kept following me, nagging. Finally, I stopped, and he said, I want to give you something from my family to yours. I asked, for free? He said yes. Feeling petty, I took the bracelet, thanked him, and walked away. He ran after me and asked, you got anything for my family? I said, no, sorry. Then, he grabbed my shoulder and said, give it back. His friendly act was gone. I held up the bracelet and said, this? You gave it to me. He insisted it wasn't free. I reminded him he had said it was. He tried blocking my way, cursing at me. So I took the bracelet and threw it over a railing, down to the ground level. He could still get it, but he'd have to walk all the way around. Furious, he yelled, F you! Over and over. Then, he acted like he was going to spit on me. I warned him that was a bad idea. After a moment, he gave up and walked away.
My mom's an influencer, and I'm tired of it, so I made no photos hoodies for me and my sister. I am a teenager, and my mom is kind of famous on Instagram and blogging. She had a mommy blog all when I was growing up, and of course, me and my sister were always involved. It sucks because there's so much there about us, and it's what's gonna come up when I'm looking for a job, when I'm dating, when anyone looks up my name. I found a website that will print custom jackets, print all over the front and back and arms, and I ordered some hoodies that say a bunch of phrases all over them. No photos, no videos, I do not consent to be photographed, no means no, respect my privacy, no cameras, no profiting off my image. It sounds silly, but it looks pretty sick actually. I got one for me and one for my 9-year-old sister who started to not always want photos. And I guess the idea is that my mom can't take good-looking pictures, even candid ones, with us in the hoodies without them having a pretty strong message that we don't want to be in pictures. My mom was mad when they showed up, and really mad when I'm wearing mine. Like she says she just wants pictures to remember. Bear my young years by, she won't post ones without asking. But I know that's a whole mess anyway. She always says that and then negotiates me into letting her post. Like either by saying that's how she makes income, so if I want money for something, to stop arguing about pictures, or posting without asking and then saying I thought it would be okay because your face wasn't visible, you're just in the background, etc. And I'm always like, no, you didn't think. If you thought at all, you'd remember what I said I want. No new pictures of me or mentions of me online. Remove all pictures that include me that you've ever posted, and delete any writing that mentions me. I am just so fed up and upset that my mom is mad at me for wearing my new hoodie every day. She's mad I won't take it off for any event and thinks it's inappropriate to wear to certain things. I know it's really weird looking, but it feels like my only option.
You want to charge me again? Wait for my lawyer. I bought a house in a golf course community with an HOA, but my house was built in the 1970s, before the HOA existed. The HOA started in the 1980s and gave people the choice to join. The previous owner allegedly signed us up, but I didn't know that. When I moved in, I noticed some houses were in bad shape, and I didn't understand why, assuming all homes were in the HOA. I asked the property manager, who told me that my section wasn't in the HOA. Confused, I asked why I was still paying dues. He explained that I was an associate member, but had no access to amenities like a pool or clubhouse. The only benefit was the maintenance of common areas and enforcement of rules, which was pointless since my neighbors weren't part of the HOA. I decided to take action. I went to a board meeting and asked if I was in the HOA. The board explained that in my section, some people were members and some weren't, and it wasn't being enforced. I realized my neighbors could park junk cars on their lawns and nothing would happen. I asked for the opt-in agreement for my property, but after waiting over a year, I went to the recorder's office. After hours of research, I discovered there were no deed restrictions on my property. I went back to the HOA, but they couldn't prove I was a member. I hired a lawyer and presented the facts to the board. The HOA's lawyer sent me a confusing letter, but my lawyer pushed for clarity. Eventually, they admitted I wasn't in the HOA and didn't owe any dues. Months later, the management company tried to charge me again. I warned them if they did, my lawyer would take legal action. The rental company tried to charge me extra, so I kept the car until the last minute. I rented a car for 5 weeks while my car was being repaired. The rental company had good policies, no cleaning fees and unlimited miles. Perfect for me. When my car was ready on Monday, I called the rental company for return details. They said I could drop the car off at the shop and leave the keys in the key box by 5:30 p.m. That evening, I picked up my car, left the keys in the box, and went home, only to find the check engine light on. The shop said to come back the next day. The next morning, the rental company called, angry that they couldn't access the key box before the shop opened at 9 a.m. They said I'd be charged for an extra day. I told them I followed their instructions, but they didn't care. I arrived at the shop at 8:50 a.m. The rental guys weren't there yet, so I grabbed the rental keys when the shop opened. They showed up a few minutes later and demanded the keys. I asked if I was still being charged for the extra day. They said yes. I smiled. Since I'm paying for it, the car's mine until 5:30, right? They looked nervous. I refused to give the keys back unless the extra charge was canceled. I went home and by 10 a.m., the car was covered in mud. I drove to the rental office, drenched in mud. The guy's face went pale. This car is great for mudding. Just wanted to ask where to leave the keys at 5:30. He sighed and said, if you return it now, we'll cancel the charge. I handed over the keys, took an Uber to the shop, and picked up my car. No extra charge, no cleaning fee.
My sister has to accept her daughter is white. Both me and my sister are Caucasian Latinas. However, she's always been more tan than me, a fact she's always been very proud of. For reference, my skin tone is close to Aubrey Plaza's, while hers is closer to Gina Rodriguez's. When we were younger, she would constantly talk about how European I looked compared to her, how my hair looked more blonde than brown, which no one ever agreed with, and how certain colors I liked looked awful on me due to my skin tone. I almost never said anything because I was 6 years older and had better things to do. Also, while I did have many insecurities, I never doubted I was beautiful. Fast forward to now, we both have kids. My husband is a little more tan than me, and both our children, 8M and 3F, have the same skin tone as their father. My sister's ex and baby daddy, however, was a very pale Swiss guy. My niece is a fair-skinned girl with dark blonde hair, while my daughter is more tan and has dark brown hair. Everyone agrees that both girls are beautiful, but their skin tones have always bugged my sister. She insists that both girls are equally tan, that her daughter's hair is light brown, and that my daughter spends too much time in the sun. Last weekend, we all had dinner at my father's place. My son brought his notebook and drew pictures of everyone at the table. He colored my daughter's skin a darker shade than my niece. He also gave my niece yellow hair and colored my daughter's hair black. He lost his brown pencil. When we showed us the drawings, my sister frowned. She said he was exaggerating his cousin's features, and that he could at least make her hair darker. When my niece said she loved the drawing, my sister told her it looked nothing like her, and insisted my son was doing this on purpose. Before the kids could get upset, I pulled my sister aside and told her she was being ridiculous. We had a very small fight in the next room. Near its end, I said something along the lines of, listen to me, your daughter is white, we're all white. You need to accept that and stop comparing the girls if you don't want niece's name to become insecure. We left shortly afterwards and none of the kids have brought anything up again. My sister is pissed at me. She told both our divorced parents about our fight. Our father thinks I shouldn't have commented on my niece's appearance and wants me to apologize to my sister. Our mom thinks this is dumb, I agree, but says my sister is overreacting.
I sent my kid to school with adult lunches and got a note from her teacher. I'm big on healthy eating, and I'm trying to raise my second grade daughter with the same mindset. She loves helping in the kitchen, she eats a balanced diet, and we're both into trying new foods. So for school snacks, I've been packing things she loves, like sliced pickles and Baby Bell cheese. For lunch this week, it's been cold, spicy sesame noodles with shaved carrots and peanuts, that kind of thing. She's obsessed with spicy food. But then she came home with a note from her teacher, asking me to send her with more appropriate snacks and lunches. I was confused at first, thought maybe I accidentally threw one of my own protein bars in there or something. Turns out the other kids were bringing cookies and fruit gummies for snack time, and my daughter had a pickle. The issue at lunch? She let a friend try her noodles, and the kid cried because it was too spicy, which apparently sparked the whole thing. I talked to my daughter, explained she shouldn't share food that might be too spicy for other kids, and figured that would be the end of it. Nope. The next day, a letter goes home to all parents as I king for age-appropriate food. Stuff like PB&J, fruit cups, snack pack pudding, you get the idea. I called the teacher to ask if this was an actual school policy. It wasn't. She just said my kid doesn't need to worry about eating adult food yet, and kind of made me feel like I was doing something wrong. So yeah, I told her I'm the parent, and unless there's a rule in place, I'll keep packing the foods my kid loves and asks for. The teacher didn't take that well and hung up on me. Just to be sure, I checked in with my daughter again. She loves her lunches. No one's teasing her. Some kids even ask for a bite of pickle. So no, I'm not going to replace her lunch with Uncrustables just because someone else's kid couldn't handle a little chili oil.
I'll do what I want in my own yard. Okay, I'll make it impossible to enjoy your air. Last spring, my kind old neighbor moved away, and a new family moved in. The husband, Pete, had a loud black Mustang and loved revving it through the neighborhood almost every evening. It was so loud that I couldn't even enjoy sitting on my porch. Worse, he and his friends would gather in his backyard, revving the car for fun. Neighbors complained in the HOA group, but Pete refused to stop. His response? I pay a lot for this house. I'll do what I want in my yard. Well, I had my own way of enjoying my yard too. Years ago, I moved my fire pit to avoid bothering my old neighbor, but now I remembered how much I loved having it in the middle of my backyard, right where the smoke always drifted into Pete's yard. One weekend, I moved the fire pit back and waited for Pete to have friends over. As soon as they gathered, I lit a fire and threw on the wettest, smelliest wood I had. Within minutes, Pete and his friends were coughing and retreating indoors. Every time they came back out, I added more. I even collected lawn scraps from neighbors to keep it burning for days. After 3 weeks, Pete and his wife finally came over, politely asking me to stop because the smoke was ruining their backyard and even getting into their house. I calmly reminded Pete that I also believed in doing what I want in my yard. His wife immediately understood. Pete had no choice but to agree. I put out the fire that day. Since then, I haven't heard the Mustang once.
My boss kept scheduling meetings during my lunch, so I started eating lunch in every meeting. I'm a creature of habit, clocking my lunch break from 12 to 1 every day like it's sacred. No breakfast for me, just a strong coffee to kickstart the morning. So lunch is non-negotiable, my stomach growling by noon like a caged beast. I block my calendar, staking my claim to that hour, a brief escape from emails and deadlines. But my new boss, fresh off a promotion and drunk on power, decided my break was his playground. He started slapping meetings smack in the middle of it, his name glaring on my screen like a challenge. The first time, I let it slide, assuming it was a one-off, some urgent crisis. The second, I raised an eyebrow but joined, my hunger a dull ache. By the third, it was clear. This was no accident. I confronted him, voice steady, pointing out my blocked calendar. "That's my lunch hour," I said, expecting reason. He leaned back, smirking through the video call, and drawled, "We all have to make sacrifices sometimes." The words landed like a gauntlet, his tone dripping with authority, daring me to push back. My jaw tightened, but a spark of defiance flickered. Sacrifices, huh? I thought. Let's play. The next meeting he scheduled at 12:30, I was ready. I showed up with a heaping plate of spaghetti and meatballs, steam rising, sauce glistening under my desk lamp. Camera on, mic unmuted, I dove in, slurping noodles with gusto, flecks of marinara dotting my chin. Mid-presentation, I'd twirl a meatball, chew loudly, and flash a thumbs up, my grin wide as his face twitched. Coworkers stifled laughs, their eyes darting to his frozen expression. He powered through, but the tension crackled, my fork scraping the plate like a battle cry. A few days later, he did it again. This time, I brought sticky barbecue wings, the kind that leave your fingers slick and orange. I gnawed through them, licking sauce off my thumbs, smacking my lips as he droned about KPIs. A wing bone clinked onto my plate, punctuating his pause, and I muttered, good stuff. Mic hot. Someone coughed, hiding a chuckle. His eyes narrowed, but he said nothing, his control slipping. Last Thursday, he tripled down, scheduling another noon call. I rolled in with a greasy pizza slice, cheese stretching as I took a massive bite, nodding along like it was a casual lunch date. The team's chat lit up with emojis, barely containing their glee. Finally, he snapped. Mid-meeting, as I wiped pizza grease from my mouth, he blurted, "Do you have to eat during this?" His voice was tight, frustration bleeding through his polished facade. I leaned into the camera, sauce-stained napkin in hand, and smiled, slow and deliberate. "We all have to make sacrifices sometimes," I said, echoing his smug line back at him, each word a quiet dagger. The silence was deafening, his face a mix of shock and defeat. The team went quiet, the air electric with my petty victory. It's Friday now, and my lunch hour's been untouched all week. No meetings, no intrusions. My calendar's a fortress again, and I savor my quiet meals, each bite a reminder of how I turned his own words against him. He hasn't mentioned it, but his quick glances in our other calls say he's learned, "Don't mess with my lunch, or I'll make every meeting a feast he can't ignore."
Sorry, sir, you can't enter your building. A few years ago, I worked as an armed security guard at a large hospital in a rough neighborhood. One day, I was given a strange order. Stand at the main entrance and stop all staff from using it. A middle manager had decided that employees had to enter through the west entrance to keep the main entrance clear for patients and visitors. So, I stood there, turning away doctors, nurses, janitors, anyone who worked there. If they refused, I had to write down their names for a later reprimand. Meanwhile, I had actual security issues to deal with. Fights in the ER, people sneaking onto the helipad for selfies, confused patients wandering the halls. But no, my job was now enforcing this ridiculous rule. After a few days, a man in a suit arrived with a group of well-dressed people. He had an employee badge and was leading a tour. They headed straight for the main entrance. "Sorry, employees must use the west entrance." He stopped. "What? New rule. I have to take your names." The man gave me a long, disbelieving stare, then slowly held his ID badge in my face. I calmly wrote down his name and every person in his group. They were surprisingly polite. Minutes later, my supervisor arrived. I showed him the list. His face went pale. "That's the CEO." Shortly after, the rule magically disappeared. Staff could use the main entrance again, and I could finally go back to real security.
What is your biggest reverse? My husband divorced me because we found out during my checkup and screening tests that our baby won't be normal and that he will have Down syndrome. I can remember the horror in my husband's face when we went back home. He told me that we should get rid of it and try again, and I told him that I will never do that, and it is our baby. He threatened me with divorce if I don't do it. I stood my ground and said I'd rather have a divorce rather than have my son to have a father like him. We went through divorce during my first trimester. It was very difficult, but my family was there to support. Way before I gave birth, he already got a new girl and he got her pregnant. He sent me a text saying that their baby is healthy, unlike mine, and told me how unlucky I was. I just blocked him and thought that no matter what, I will love my baby and will protect him from anything. Fast forward to giving birth, my son came out and he was 100% normal. My delivery doctor told me that it is common to get misdiagnosed. I cried so hard because my faith was tested. After a few months, the sister of my ex visited me and told me that my ex's new baby was unfortunately diagnosed at birth of trisomy 21 Down syndrome. My ex was furious and left the delivery room, and he never claimed the baby as his. What is something a parent did that backfired to them horribly? When my boyfriend got me pregnant in my early 20s, there was so much pressure and lack of support coming from his family. My boyfriend came from a good family who has money and are successful. My boyfriend was always there during my checkups and took care of me. Anyway, his parents was against it because they strongly think my baby wasn't their son's. And the mom told me I was after their money or I was lying so I can have a better life. My boyfriend defended me many times and rejected his dad's offer to do a paternity test. When my son was born, my boyfriend's parents visited me alone, and they demanded a DNA test since my boyfriend was against it. All of a sudden, the mom of my boyfriend started begging him to stop it and told him that this is a bad idea, and they should just accept the baby. I confidently told them that we can do it using both of their DNA samples. After a few days, the results came back, and my son successfully tested and is related with my boyfriend's mom, but not with the dad. It was a full-blown family drama after finding out that my boyfriend wasn't his son. The dad accepted me and my son into the family. Unfortunately, just 3 months after the DNA test, the dad divorced the mom for cheating on him 26 years ago.
My boyfriend thought it was hilarious to critique my cooking with a literal PowerPoint presentation, so I crafted a presentation called Why It's Time to Move On, a farewell guide. I, 28, have been with my boyfriend, 30, for about 2 years. We live together, and I've always done most of the cooking because I genuinely enjoy it. He claims he can't even boil water without setting off the smoke alarm. The other night, I made one of our favorite meals, and while we were eating, he got a weird smirk on his face. He then says, "You know, I've been taking notes." I laughed, thinking he was joking, but then he said, "No, really, I made a presentation." I still thought it was a joke until he got up, connected his laptop to the TV, and opened a PowerPoint titled Improving Our Home Dining Experience. I was in disbelief as he went slide by slide critiquing my dishes. Slide 1, too much garlic. Slide 2, pasta consistency. Slide 3, more salt, less sass. The kicker was slide 8, which was just a photo of Gordon Ramsay facepalming with the caption, "What he'd think." I was stunned. I told him if he had such detailed opinions, he should cook himself. He tried to backtrack, saying it was all in good fun and that he was just trying to help, but I wasn't laughing. I haven't cooked since, and now he's been living off cereal and takeout. He's sulking, saying I'm overreacting and ruining the joke. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to cook after my boyfriend presented me with a PowerPoint critique of my cooking? Update, buckle up, because here's the follow-up you didn't know you needed. I decided that our relationship needed a serious talk. I sat him down to discuss how his presentation came across as not just unfunny, but pretty disrespectful. You know, typical mature relationship stuff. Well, what does he do? He smirks and goes, "Oh, I was prepared for this." He actually grabs his laptop, connects it to the TV again, and presents me with another PowerPoint titled How to Take a Joke, a comprehensive guide. Yes, folks, he made a whole slideshow explaining why I needed to learn how to chill out and appreciate humor. Slide 1 featured a meme of a clown putting on makeup with my name plastered over it. Slide 2, a bullet point list titled,
If a boy's good with kids and babies, it immediately pulls on her heartstrings. Things that boys do that girls secretly love. The last one will shock you all. Girls love boys who don't dress like thugs. TikTok knows someone who has a crush on you secretly. It's the second person that appears when you click on share, then more. Girls love boys who don't fart too much like Fabian. Girls love it when a boy plays sports, especially extreme sports. 20 million people have the same birthday as you. Write yours in the comments to see who has the same. Girls love boys who don't play a lot of video games. Girls love it when a boy wears a uniform like firefighters or police officers. If you subscribe, my profile picture will turn black. Girls love it when a boy is not too jealous and possessive. Girls love it when a boy responds quickly to messages. Girls love boys who know how to cook well. Girls love boys who are good with kids and animals. Before this last fact, please like this video and subscribe as we may never see each other again. Girls love boys who are supportive and understanding. Girls love boys who are tall. Things that boys do that girls secretly love. The last one will shock you all. Girls love it when a boy plays sports, especially extreme sports. TikTok knows someone who has a crush on you secretly. It's the second person that appears when you click on share, then more. Girls love boys who are good at solving problems. Girls love it when a boy wears briefs instead of boxers. 20 million people have the same birthday as you. Write yours in the comments to see who has the same. Girls love boys who are good at remembering important dates. Girls love boys who are confident but not arrogant. Girls love boys who don't spend all their time complaining. If you subscribe, my profile picture will turn black. Girls love boys who are funny. Girls love boys who support and understand them. Girls love boys who respect their boundaries and opinions. Girls like boys who are adventurous. Before this last fact, please like this video and subscribe as we may never see each other again. Girls love boys who are good at giving compliments. Girls don't care about how tall you are. Things girls wish boys knew. The last one will shock all the boys. When talking about their problems, girls don't want a solution. They just want someone to hear them vent. TikTok knows someone who has a crush on you secretly. It's the second person that appears when you click on share, then more. All girls absolutely love forehead kisses. Girls also don't really care about expensive gifts. They want small, sentimental things. 20 million people have the same birthday as you. Write yours in the comments to see who has the same. Girls also have the worst mood swings known to mankind. Girls are expert detectives and can tell when you lie in an instant, so just don't do it. Did you know that girls have a hidden sense and can tell when you are looking at other girls? If you subscribe, my profile picture might turn black. If a girl thinks you will judge her for something, she will never open up to you fully. If a girl is mad at her boyfriend, she doesn't want to say anything about it. She just wishes he knew. Before this last fact, please like this video and subscribe, as we may never see each other again. Girls don't change their bra that all boys love it when a girl smiles at them across the room. Things that girls do that guys love. The last one will shock everyone. Boys love it when girls wear their hair in a ponytail, especially when a boy sees her putting up her hair. It's an instant jaw dropper. TikTok knows someone who has a crush on you secretly. It's the second person that appears when you click on share, then more. Boys love it when girls show compassionate feelings toward other people, babies and animals. All boys love it when a girl is naturally herself without trying too hard. 20 million people have the same birthday as you. Write yours in the comments to see who has the same. Sometimes cute little sneezes or sounds girls make can be super attractive to boys. Guys love it when girls compliment their outfits. They could wear them for weeks just because of it. If you subscribe, my profile picture will turn black. When a girl is really tired and her voice changes to her sleepy voice, boys absolutely love this. Before this last fact, please like this video and subscribe, as we may never see each other again. If she doesn't care too much about her looks and her image, boys like that.
For those who have witnessed a wedding objection during the "Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace" portion, what happened? 1. The groom himself. He just stood up there and started crying and, in front of everyone, told the bride that he'd fallen out of love with her a while before, but he didn't know how to break it off. It was extremely uncomfortable. They both stepped out, and 10 minutes later came back out and got married, because she'd apparently told him she was pregnant. They're still together with 3 kids, and I'm not sure about the husband, but I can confirm that the wife is having an affair. Neither of them are happy, but she has a comfortable life and he doesn't have the spine to leave. 2. About 5 years ago, a co-worker of mine invited all of us to his wedding. He was a great guy, but none of us had ever met his wife. Seen pictures of her and he always said nothing but good things of her. Fast forward to the wedding. It was an incredibly nice one. Looks like they paid quite a bit for it. Everything was going smooth and I was having fun and assumed so was everyone else. Anyway, now they're both at the altar or whatever, looking deeply into each other's eyes and smiling. And when that line comes of, "Speak now or forever hold your peace," I get anxious, but nothing ever happens. So right as soon as the anxiousness faded away, the bride's mother stood up and objected. Blurted some shit about how she doesn't want to continue their family with a man like him. He was black, she was white. The bride-to-be cried, ran off. Wedding went fucking silent. Bride's dad took the mom and ran after the bride. The groom stood there incredibly awkward. He may or may not have achieved actually leaving his body. Anyway, the groomsmen took him away. I left because it was too weird. Apparently the reception went on. They did not get married that day, but ended up together anyway privately, and surprisingly work wasn't weird. He laughed about it. And they are happily married. 3. The best man at my stepsister's wedding did this. It happened at the rehearsal the night before. It was a very large wedding and the rehearsal was bigger than a lot of weddings. The minister was going over the vows quickly while giving instruction on what to do. When he said something about objections, the best man interrupted, saying he had to put a stop to this. He was in love with the bride and was sure she felt the same way. My sister and everyone else was horrified. It caused plenty of chaos and confusion. As far as I know, after that neither the bride or groom ever spoke to him again. 4. I went to a wedding when I was 5. It was between my older brother and his fiancée. Anyways, they said the whole "speak now" part, and right before he was done, little 5-year-old me said, "I object," and everyone turned to me. I was dead silent because I didn't know what would happen. My dad asked me, "Well, why do you object?" And I said I did not know what would happen if I did, and I was promptly seated. What's the most cringeworthy approval-seeking behavior you've ever seen? 1. A good friend's sister was not getting enough attention during my friend's wedding, and decided to start crying loudly during the ceremony, to a point where the bride and friends had to go and comfort her. My friend said this was completely normal behavior when she is not the center of attention. 2. One of my former friends is boldly, unapologetically narcissistic. The most cringeworthy recent quote was, "I can't even eat Italian food in America anymore because it was so good in Italy. Totally ruined it for me." Said as loudly as possible at a friend's birthday dinner at an Italian restaurant. 3. Went to a girl's birthday party where she made everyone there sit in a circle and say their favorite thing about her. She told her boyfriend if he didn't come up with something good enough, she was breaking up with him. She was turning 21. We don't speak anymore. 4. guy in my middle school used to have friends that would tell him to do a Superman down a steep bank at the school. He'd run and dive, and fly for a few seconds like Superman before face planting on the steep bank and crashing down the hill. He'd always get back up all banged up and look at his friends, but they'd run away. 5. I knew a girl who pretended to have amnesia due to mental and emotional trauma from her boyfriend dumping her. She started a Facebook group for all of her friends to get together and tell nice stories about her to try to jog her memory. 6. This girl in high school went around with a piece of paper that represented her self-esteem. Every time someone was mean to her, she would tear off a piece. She said it would take 10 nice things for a piece to be taped back on. You can guess how this went. 7. A good friend's dad passed away. As the family was putting his ashes out at sea, the mom had somebody else take pictures of her and her grieving kids, and then she posted them on Facebook. The kids were so angry, and for good reason. 8. One of my roommates is the absolute worst when it comes to this. She'll come up to me and start yelling in my face about how she wants my attention, or some of whatever I'm eating. Unfortunately for me, she's really close with my girlfriend, so I put up with picking up her poop and taking her on walks. 9. A girl in my class talks to all the teachers like she is equal to them and intellectually more advanced than everyone. She thinks she's good friends with them, but most I've talked to find her annoying. 10. I knew a girl in middle school who lost a lot of weight after being put on ADHD medication. She used to swan around and complain loudly about how she was never hungry anymore and she just couldn't stop losing weight. She kind of stopped doing it after some guy told her, "Really? Don't worry, it's not noticeable."
My parents said they couldn't afford to buy me a winter coat, and a week later, bought matching jackets for their real family. My stepmom laughed and said, "Try not to freeze, sweetheart." I stayed silent. Months later, they needed a place to stay. I said, "It's cold outside, isn't it?" And then my dad. "I just thought maybe you'd understand." My dad said over the phone. His voice was thin, tired. I paused. Understand what that people fall on hard times. The words felt like snow hitting my skin, soft at first, then melting into cold that settles deep. I stared out the window at the gray sky outside. Snowflakes were already drifting down. "Do you remember the winter I was 15? He was silent. "Never mind." I said, "I hope you figure things out." I hung up when I was 15. I asked my dad if we could go shopping for a new coat. My old one was too tight and the zipper didn't work anymore. He sighed, rubbed the bridge of his nose and said something about money being tight. I nodded, because I was used to disappointment. I didn't cry when I left the room. I didn't cry when I walked to the bus stop the next morning wearing a hoodie and 3 layers underneath it. I didn't cry when my fingers burned from the wind. Crying never helped anything in that house. A week later, I came home from school and heard laughter from the living room. It wasn't a joyful sound, it was high-pitched and exclusive, the kind of laughter that says you're not a part of this. I walked in and saw them. My stepmom, Marla, and her 2 daughters, Annika and Bree. All 3 of them were in shiny new jackets, the kind that puffed out and looked warm enough to sleep in. The tags were still on the sleeves. They were matching plum-colored with fur-lined hoods. My dad was standing in the doorway holding a mug, smiling. They looked like a real family. Marla turned to me, "Try not to freeze, sweetheart." It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it, the fake concern, the tiny curl in her lip that said she liked watching me flinch. I didn't say anything. I walked upstairs, I shut the door, I sat on the bed and stared at the wall. I had learned by then that staying quiet was safer. Marla moved in with us just a few months after the divorce was finalized. At first, I thought she was just overwhelmed. Trying to blend 2 families is never easy, right? But over time, I saw it clearly. She didn't want a blended family. She wanted her own, and I wasn't part of it. She never yelled, she never hit. It was worse than that. She left me out of things on purpose, forgot to tell me when dinner was ready, threw out leftovers before I got home from school, excluded me from family outings and made it sound like I was the one who didn't want to go. I'd find out about ice skating trips from photos on the fridge, and my dad, he just watched when I asked him once, just once, why he let her treat me like that. He mumbled something about keeping the peace. I understood what that meant. It meant that I was disposable, so long as she stayed happy. That winter was rough. Upstate New York doesn't care about your feelings, the cold slices right through you. I layered sweaters and hoodies and tried not to shiver too visibly. A teacher at school, Mrs. Gentry, eventually noticed and offered me her old coat from home. I told her my dad was going to get one next week. He wasn't. She brought the coat anyway. I accepted it in silence. I still remember how warm it felt, how alien that warmth was, like something I didn't deserve. I got a job the minute I could, weekends at a greasy spoon diner where truckers called me kid and tipped in crumpled singles. I saved everything. I didn't go to prom. I didn't buy yearbooks. Every dollar went into a shoebox. My only plan was escape. By 18, I was out. SUNY Albany gave me a partial scholarship. I worked at night, studied during the day, and ignored every call from home. My sister announced her pregnancy with my husband at my birthday dinner. My name is Andrea, and this was supposed to be my 36th birthday dinner. The crystal glasses caught the light just so, making the expensive champagne sparkle like tiny stars. My husband Rene's hand rested possessively on my shoulder as he raised his glass to my beautiful wife. He said, his voice carrying the hint of charm that once made me weak in the knees. "Happy birthday, darling." My sister, Rose, shifted in her seat, her perfectly manicured fingers fidgeting with her water glass. She hadn't touched her champagne, which should have been my first clue, if I hadn't already known what was coming. "Actually," Rose interrupted, just as everyone was about to drink, "I have an announcement to make." My mother, Linda, beamed, already knowing. Of course she knew. She always knew everything about Rose. "First, I'm pregnant." Rose's voice rang out across the private dining room. The silence that followed lasted exactly 2 seconds before she added the punchline, "and Rene's the father." I felt Rene's hand tighten on my shoulder, not in guilt, but in preparation for my reaction. They all expected hysteria, tears, maybe even a scene. The restaurant staff hovered nervously at the edges of the room. I took a slow sip of my champagne. "That's interesting," I said, my voice steady, "very interesting indeed." "Andrea," my mother started, her tone already taking that scolding edge she'd perfected over the years. "Don't make a scene." I smiled, reaching for my purse. "Oh, I wouldn't dream of it." "Mother, in fact, I have my own announcement to make." I pulled out a cream-colored envelope. "You see, I've been wondering why Rene and I couldn't conceive for the past 3 years." Rose's triumphant smile faltered slightly. Rene's hand left my shoulder. "Andrea, this isn't the time," he said quietly, warning in his voice. "Actually, it's the perfect time." I unfolded the medical report with careful precision because, according to Dr. Matthews at the fertility clinic, my dear husband has what they call a zoospermia, 0 sperm count. I looked directly at Rose. "In layman's terms, he's completely infertile." The sound of Mary's fork clattering against her plate echoed through the room. Rose's face drained of color so quickly I thought she might faint. That's impossible." She stammered, "The test must be wrong." "That's what I thought, too," I said, pulling out a second envelope. So I had him tested again, different clinic, different doctor, same result. I smiled at Rene, who had gone completely still beside me. "Would you like to see the date?" "Starling, both tests were from last month. You had me tested without my knowledge." Rene's voice shook with anger. "Oh, like you've been so honest with me." I turned to face him fully. 3 years of trying, 3 years of you telling me maybe I was the problem, 3 years of watching you comfort my sister through her visits while I cried myself to sleep. Linda stood up abruptly. "This is absolutely inappropriate." "No, Mother, what's inappropriate is your precious Rose fucking my husband and then trying to pass off someone else's baby as his." I stood up, gathering my purse. "So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to walk out of here with my dignity intact, and you too." I looked between Rose and Rene. "Can figure out how to explain to everyone why you lied that test." Rene grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. "It was wrong, wasn't it?" I leaned in close enough to smell his cologne, the same cologne I'd smelled on Rose's jacket last month. "Oh no, darling." I double-checked twice. I pulled my arm free, and I have so much more proof where that came from. As I walked toward the door, Rose's voice cracked behind me. "Andrea, wait. I can explain." I paused at the doorway, turning back one last time. "Save your explanation for your baby's real father, Rose. I'm sure he'd love to hear it." The last thing I saw as I left was Mary pulling out her phone, no doubt, already dialing everyone in her considerable social network. By morning, everyone would know, and that was exactly what I wanted, because revenge isn't just about exposing lies, it's about watching them scramble to piece together a truth they can't possibly explain. And I was just getting started. 6 weeks earlier, I was sitting in my home office when the first real evidence landed in my lap, not the subtle signs I'd been ignoring, the lingering hugs, the inside jokes, the way Rose's visits always coincided with Rene's work from home days. No, this was an actual email accidentally left open on our shared iPad. "We need to be more careful." Rose had written, "A is getting suspicious." I stared at those words until they burned into my retinas. Not Andrea, not sister, just like I was some obstacle to be managed. The next morning, I called Angela.
My wife took both our kids to see their grandparents. It was sometime after lunch that I got a call from my father, telling me to come to their home, and had a lot of anger in his tone. As soon as I entered, I noticed a lot of tension in the air. My wife was a crying mess and my parents were trying to console her. Some of my extended family members were there as well. I asked what happened, only to be hit by being called a rapist by my parents. I was shocked and confused. They claimed that a party I went to a couple of weeks back, I had decided to rope a girl, and then texted her to not tell anyone about it, otherwise there will be consequences. I had known this girl Amanda for some time. We went to high school together and she was a part of the larger friends group that I occasionally hung out with. As per her, after the party, which was at a club, I followed her to her car and did it there. She shared screenshots of the alleged conversation with my wife and told her this entire tale. My father slapped me hard and my parents told me that they never want to see my face again. Jenny was angry and she said that we're done. I tried to convince all of them that I never did that, but fell on deaf ears. I was basically kicked out from their house and told that neither Jenny nor the kids would be returning and my father would be coming over to take their stuff to my apartment. When my father came, I begged and pleaded, but he basically packed a couple of bags and told me never ever to contact them again and that he would personally hand me to the cops if that happened. By evening, Henry had shared the screenshots and all the details to our extended family group on WhatsApp, from where I was unanimously kicked out. The next few days, I even had people from my friend group calling me to say they were disgusted with me and never to contact them again. I was a mess during that time. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't even properly work. My boss also heard the rumors going around but couldn't do much until he saw some police action against me. He advised me that I leave the organization on my own to keep my record intact and that he would ensure that I don't have to even serve my notice period. I tried to argue the case, but he told me that if the cops come knocking on my door, he would be kicked out anyways, and in such a scenario and the gravity of the case meant, I won't get severance and my record will be tarnished. I grudgingly agreed to his ask and I left the organization in the next few days. In mid-August, while I was still wallowing in my misery, I received 2 documents from the court. One was a letter of disownment and the other were divorce papers. I was quite intoxicated, but I went to my parents' place anyway, only for my brother to come and lay hands on me and tell me that I was a disgrace to the family and it was good that I was disowned. I had blood coming out of my face by the time he was done with me and barely able to stand. My parents and my wife looked at me from afar but did nothing. I managed to get myself up after some time, a crying mess, and realized that I had lost everything and everyone I knew. I stayed holed up in my apartment for the duration of the divorce. It went as amicably as it could. As I was jobless, plus my now ex-parents stated they would pay for the child, I didn't have to pay child support or any alimony. By January 2016 I was divorced, but trying to pick up the pieces that was once my life was hard. During this time, I also felt like confronting Amanda, but the more I thought about it the more I realized it could have made matters worse for me due to the women-centric laws in my country meant one phone call and I would be looking at 5 to 6 years in jail. Receptionist looked down on me not knowing I own the hotel chain. I, 36 years old, own a hotel chain that I've grown after my father passed it down to me in my late 20s. I've expanded through other states and put my locations near highways and near tourist spots. I have multiple managers from different states that manages my hotels, and I visit each one of them throughout the year. After my wife recently gave birth to my youngest, I decided to take my family on a road trip. My wife and I always